Yeah, time for our first discussion on cricket for this new year. Over 47,000 fans were treated to an entertaining opening day of the fifth and final test between Australia and India for the Border Gavaskar Trophy, which bowled off on Thursday evening Caribbean time in Sydney at the SCG. Gerard Morrisili has a recap of the day's play.
Anticipation rife ahead of the fifth and final test as fans waited with bated breath to see who would lead the visitors. Reports that Rohit Sharma would opt out of the contest confirmed as Jasprit Bumrah stepped out for India, the fast bowler calling right before electing to bat in Sydney. But it was the Australians who dominated the day, taking 3 wickets before lunch. KL Rahul the first to go as he clipped Mitchell Starc to square leg in the 5th over, and then India's series leader in runs, Yashavi Jaiswal, nicked off to a beautifully pitched Scott Boland delivery. Shubman Gill battled to 20 from 64 deliveries, but he too advanced down the wicket, only to be poached by Steve Smith at slip. Nathan Lyon with the wicket as India crawled to 57 for 3 at lunch. India again showed very little intent post-lunch, scoring 50 in 25 overs to reach 107 for 4 at the break. The only wicket to fall, Virat Kohli again poking outside of his off stump.
Big bow on debut, he's got 2!
Rishabh Pant was unusually sedate, taking 98 balls for his top score of 40 as he hit 3 fours and 1 6, and sheared in a 48-run 5th wicket style with Ravindra Jadeja, who got a 98-ball 26. Pant lost his wicket 6 overs into the final session, giving Boland his 3rd, and in similar fashion to the second innings of the 4th test, sparking another collapse from the visitors. Boland, the best Aussie bowler, with 4 for 31, ably supported by Mitchell Starc 3 for 49 and Pat Cummins 2 for 37, as India were dismissed for 185 in 72.2 overs. Australia took the field with less than half hour to go in the day, with Sam Constance continuing his newfound rivalry with the Indian captain. Things escalated in the final over.
Here's the gamesmanship. Constance engages. Constance is going at him.
But Bumrah had the last laugh.
Oh, it's taken, is it? No, we're not sure. Hold on. Oh, they're charging in from everywhere.
Australia ending the first day on 9 for 1 to trail by 176 runs, with Constance not out on 7.
Well, there is something to look forward to at the start of day number 2 of this fifth and final test, the battle between Jasprit Bumrah and the 19-year-old Constance. Yes, it starts at 6:30 p.m. Jamaica time. That's 7:30 ECT, day 2, live on SportsMax. All right, it's a pleasure to say Happy New Year and welcome to the SportsMax captain, Fazir Mohammed, who will never engage in such confrontations. Faz, welcome to the SportsMax Zone for the first time in 2025. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all, and all the best to everyone on the team, not just those in front of the camera. But you're right, I'll never engage in those sorts of exchanges because the brain isn't quick enough. I can't come up with a quick response when things like that happen. I get tongue-tied, so I prefer to stay quiet.
There goes that. All right, let's get back to the start of this test match, because ahead of the match, news hours ahead of it swirling that Rohit Sharma, the India captain, had opted out of the match. And then, of course, that confirmed at the toss, even though the coach Gautam Gambhir had, well, not denied, but had effectively said, well, you'll find out at the toss. And indeed we did. And it was Jasprit Bumrah leading the India team. The circumstances surrounding Rohit Sharma's exclusion, non-playing of this game, assess that for us, Faz.
Well, Ricardo, I think a lot of the pretty language tends to make things more complicated than it is. He dropped himself, basically. That's what it is. It wasn't about being arrested. It wasn't about, looking at other options. He dropped himself as captain because he recognized that, look, the runs aren't coming. He's struggling. They need some sort of stability at the top of the order. And therefore, it was the sensible thing with the other selectors to discuss, to say, look, you've got to drop yourself. And whether it was at his instigation or someone else, at the end of the day, he was dropped. and therefore that's why Jasprit Bumrah was the captain. And of course, it's not unprecedented. We've seen it happen before, famously in Australia, 74-75 Ashes series, when Mike Dennis, the England captain, after he'd lost the first 3 tests heavily and were pummeled by the fast bowling tandem of Dennis Lillee and Jeff Thompson, he dropped himself for the 4th test match and returned for the final test. So there are situations like this where sometimes you have to make a decision that might seem unprecedented, might seem to reflect some turmoil within the camp, but it's about thinking of the team first.
Yeah, what does this mean then for the test career of Rohit Sharma? And you referenced the 1974-75 England scenario and the return for the captain then. Do you foresee a return to test cricket for Rohit Sharma after this?
Well, this is an interesting one, because just to continue the Mike Dennis situation, yes, he played the final test of that series, but then there was a return Ashes series in 1975, right after the inaugural World Cup, and they were mauled by Australia in Edgbaston, and then he was sacked as captain and wasn't part of the side after that. In this case, I think there's a genuine question over whether or not Rohit Sharma, on merit, can reclaim a spot in the Indian batting lineup. And I think that's a genuine concern moving forward for India. They're going to have to look at that very carefully. And you don't want a situation where it becomes unsavory and comments being made and so on. One would hope that there's a mature discussion and there may be a recognition that, look, I've come to the end of my career. And maybe, as we saw with Ravi Ashwin after the 3rd test match, we might get an announcement after this test.
Yeah, and if we don't get that announcement, Faz, do you suspect that Gautam Gambhir would be on board with Rohit Sharma returning as captain and returning to the test team?
Well, that really depends on the dynamics between the two, because there's always going to be speculation. And indeed, Gambhir hasn't had the best of starts as India coach. I mean, 3-0 at home to New Zealand, unprecedented. They're 2-1 down, but still very much in the contest. Let's not write India off already. But yes, it really would depend on the dynamics, because just to draw a reference, it was quite obvious when Virat Kohli came in as Indian captain about a decade ago that he didn't saddle with the coach then, who was Anil Kumble. And very quickly we saw Kumble being sidelined and Ravi Shastri coming in. So essentially, it's about those dynamics, because yes, whatever respect they would have for each other and their respective merits as cricketer and captain and coach, it also has to mean that they can work together. And if they can't, well, then it's better to have an amicable separation.
Yeah, and I saw in one of the websites this morning where Ravi Shastri, you just mentioned him, former player and coach of the team, now commentator, said that he thinks that Sharma will quit will quit Test cricket at the end of this Aussie series. So let's see if Ravi Shastri is right. Because he's a part of the India setup, I think I will be guided by his opinion. But Faz, let's go to the game.
Very, very close, as you said. Very,
yes.
very close to things. And
yes.
Who knows, he might have had a word with Rohit Sharma.
I think so, which wouldn't be a bad decision for Rohit Sharma to make. Let's go quickly to the game, though, because India won the toss and elected to field on a lush green SCG strip. Was that... They elected to bat, I'm sorry, on a lush green strip. Was that a surprising decision to you? Because as a fast bowling unit, I'm seeing a pitch like that and I'd want to bowl.
Not surprising, because I think they also have in mind that the SCG, batting last, batting in a 4th innings, if there is a 4th innings, is really treacherous. Yes, it's green, it's uneven. It was really difficult. It was really challenging. And credit to the batters in the middle order who really tried to stick it out. And credit to the Australian bowlers for that discipline that they showed. But remember, when Rohit Sharma won the toss at the Gabba and opted not to bat first, it was shown to be a poor decision. Because generally, in Australian conditions, as inviting as it appears to the bowlers, you want to bat first. You want to survive that difficult early couple of hours. And if you do, you really set yourself up to win a test match. And that's generally the trend. Very rarely you'd see that being wavered from. Of course, it was wavered from when the West Indies had the 4 great fast bowlers. No one wanted to bat first. But I wasn't surprised. You knew it was going to be difficult. But I think they backed themselves as difficult as it would have been to get not necessarily a defendable total, but a total that could at least give their bowlers something to work with.
Yeah, and Ricardo referenced it at the top of the show, how although batting was slow and the day was difficult, it was a kind of edge of your seat kind of spectacle that faced us throughout the opening day, Faz, because the Indian batters were under immense pressure. How good was the Aussie bowling as against, you know, how good or not good the Indian batting? Because like Pant, he fought really hard and sort of changed his natural game and went into survival mode for long periods of his innings.
A couple of things there, and I think Ricardo was right. It was entertaining in a test cricket sense, because people attuned to T20 cricket or white ball cricket will say entertaining. 194 runs with nearly 90 overs. What's entertaining about that? It was the cut and thrust, the intrigue, what we know to be real test cricket, and the culmination of a really absorbing test match series, which we don't get involving the West Indies anymore. But to answer your specific question about the Australian bowling, and I think this is the essence of good test match bowling. It's simple what they've got to do. Should that channel honor about the off stump where they get Kohli every time now, but it's not easy to really stick to that plan, to be metronomic like a Glenn McGrath or a Scott Boland in this case, because there's always that temptation to do something different. Now, to the Indian batting, and especially that partnership involving Rishabh Pant, I think what we saw there was a chastened Rishabh Pant. Not just for the manner in which he got out and the comments from Gavaskar that we highlighted, but apparently there's been an avalanche of condemnation from the Indian press, from the Indian public, not just for losing the test match, but the way they lost at the MCG. And you got that sense that with all of that condemnation, Rishabh Pant was trying his level best to discipline himself. But in the end, of course, he tried the attacking shot and he got out. And I think that's what made for the intrigue. 47,000 cheering on both sides. You can see the contest. You can see Pant fighting with himself against that disciplined Australian attack. It was really interesting stuff.
Yeah, Faz, I don't know if you completed your psychology degree, but I do want a comment from you on the words of Rishabh Pant. Sometimes you have to play more sensible cricket, is what he said at the end of his 40 from 98 deliveries. How do you read into that?
Well, as far as getting a psychology degree, I need a therapist anyway, so that's another story. But and I think, you know, things happen in people's lives. Remember, just 2 years ago, Rishabh Pant was fighting for his life after a serious vehicular accident. And that sometimes brings things into perspective, that it's only a game. But then when you have the sort of reaction from the Indian public, it tells you how much it means to so many people. People who have limited means, whom people might be on the edge of poverty, and see the game of cricket and their national team as some sort of avenue for relief and joy and satisfaction. And that's probably why you got that comment, that the weight of responsibility on his shoulders seemed to really take a toll on him in the aftermath of that MCG test. And clearly that was the case when he batted yesterday.
Yeah, and one quick one, Faz. How much are you looking forward to day number 2, and specifically at the start of the day, that Constas-Bumrah battle?
Absolutely. I think that is why we enjoy this game so much, because yes, it's long, yes, it's 5 days, yes, it could be dead boring in between, but the way it ended on day 1 with Bumrah having a word with Constas and then getting the wicket of Khawaja, it really sets things up. You know that Constas is not going to back down, neither is Bumrah. It should be quite intriguing.
Yeah, it should be indeed, Faz. Thanks very much as usual. We'll catch up on Monday. At that time, this test match should be done. Yeah, and we'll be talking about the result, whether the Border Gavaskar Trophy has been retained by India or reclaimed by Australia. Thanks, Vance. We'll chat soon.
Take care.
All right, by the way, yeah, you can watch Day 2 and the entire test match right here on SportsMax. Day 2 starts at 6:30 p.m. Jamaica time. That's 7:30 ECT. Ensure you check it out. Should be another wonderful day of test cricket.